Hey guys, what's up? This is FalseBulls123, and if I remember correctly, this is day 66 of our daily vlogging challenge. But honestly, I've been a fucking mess this week and I can't even remember, so hopefully it is, maybe it ain't, who the fuck knows. So, mostly just because I wanted to do a sort of interesting music corner this week, I pushed that back to farther in the week. Because, as you might remember, I tend to do my music corners around Tuesday or Wednesday. And so I decided to do like one of these instead. Just a strum a tune. I don't think that like there's any reason why I should have like a fixed day to do any of my like sort of daily, weekly vlogs. You know, that good English. So I decided just to do it today. I've been thinking a bit about my musical playing, and I definitely realized that as a ukulele player, I am very much the amateur, and I really haven't had a good chance to grasp the fundamentals of my instrument. And I think that, once I do get, more settled in my room, once I actually am able to unpack more, I definitely want to find, because I actually bought a beginner ukulele, book when I was, first got this one. So I definitely want to start practicing my fundamentals a bit more going forward, becoming more skilled with my instrument. Because even though I'm very, very novice at the ukulele, I am a trained musician in some sense. I played the clarinet for 6 years. I was able to play fairly technical, pieces. And so I want to be able to have that same level of skill and virtuoso, with the ukulele. Even though I am content just to play, everything, and I'm actually not sure what key I tend to play in. Generally, my favorite chord progression is F, A, C, G sustained. Mostly just because I dislike the regular G, and I think the G sustained is a bit nicer. There's also G minor, which I'm not the biggest fan of, mostly just because it's a little harder to, reach with, the other ones, but it has a good tone to it. Mostly the issue with G is just, a lot of times it's playing by itself, it sounds a bit flat. There's this dissonance that I dislike with it. And maybe that's just an inadequacy of my playing, but it's definitely something that I'll have to work on. I know when I was playing when I was playing the clarinet, whenever I was learning a new fingering, it would definitely be a bit atonal. It definitely wouldn't be as good. But generally, the more I got used to playing, the more I was able to play over the break. For those that don't play the clarinet, the break is essentially this difficult fingering between B flat and A on the sort of beginning octave. So you have your C, so you have your C, then D, and it's up, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then B flat, which is, I can't explain it without actually having a clarinet in front of me. Sorry about that, guys. A little bit of a reflex. They're doing a little bit rockish. You can't even see my feet, but yeah. But basically, it's definitely a milestone that you have to pass in clarinet playing. So I know that the more I practice my instrument, the more I actually play the notes, the more clearer and fine the tone became. And so I'm sure that it is a similar issue with a ukulele, where it's simply a matter of practicing and getting used to fingerings. Because I used to be very difficult to actually play a B flat chord or I think that's D. I can never remember if it's D or E flat. One of them is something like that. I think the hardest instrument songs I've tried to play will instantly switch from one to the other, and it's difficult because they're essentially the opposite fingerings and the chords. Another issues I have with a lot are usually things just a lot of the flat chords like A flat and F flat and just all the other ones, just because I'm not used to them. Now that I think about it, I think it would be really great if I was able to really recognize, I guess, key signatures better in ukulele playing, because I didn't have an issue with key signatures in with clarinet playing, because they were instead of having tablature, we had staff music, which is a lot easier to, I guess, read in my sense, since we didn't have the ability to play chords on a clarinet. Interesting note is that if I don't remember what key the ukulele is played in generally. I know there's a specific amount of tuning that's, let's see, the fourth chord, let's see. And I'm trying to remember what the actual, like, notes of the keys are on. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I do know that the fourth chord is pitched an octave higher than the other three. Yeah, I know I'm trying to think, because, like, I know the clarinet was a B-flat concert, which essentially meant that our C chord, or C, key of C, our concert key, actually contained one flat, which was the B-flat, where the, so essentially everything was all the chords were transposed one down. We essentially added a flat to all of our keys. And so with the ukulele, I'm not really sure how to go about, like, with key signature, well, not key signatures, but, like, yeah, key signatures, I was using the correct term. Because mostly just I'm not as familiar with that as in regards to chords, because I've never played guitar, I've never played piano, so it's definitely a learning curve. I'm going to kind of shut up about, like, just, I guess, instrumentation, mostly because I wanted to play you a quick scale to show you that I do know how to do at least something with the ukulele. And then I'll sing a song, I'll figure something out. I don't really have a exact thought in my head right now, but I like creating stuff, and so we can just enjoy ourselves. So trash, but yeah, let's just get on to, like, the playing. Got something to say. I remember weeks in December. I was awash and drunk and couldn't even find the light, lying through the night, drunk and high. And I know it was just me, and in the corner blaming myself. wasn't always so easy, but I wish that my subservience wasn't what makes my stomach so drinking the sun, smiled oh so bright, even though it was a lie. I sang away on these four strings, singing a tune so snug and so sweet, and I sang away on these four strings, wishing that I could feel complete, and it felt like all the good things in my life had abandoned me. But I knew that wasn't true, that I was looking darkly through a glass that's through in the dark of a tunnel that I wish I could crawl through. And I know that wasn't quite true, that there was people there if I did reach through, but I couldn't see a soul, but I was stuck in my mind, a crooked fortress of vines and spires. But it's better now. Oh, I am home, and I'm lifted up by the ones that I call my own. I am home, home. Oh, I am home. Oh, I am home. Oh, I'm home. I'm home. Well, that was interesting. One thing I definitely like when I'm playing the ukulele is just kind of finding a new way to articulate a new sort of, I guess, frill or fingering or just sort of riff that makes the song unique. And I think that if I can, find some sort of uniqueness in every song I play that just doesn't tread over the same grounds of... if it's not just always, the same sort of riffs and patterns that I'm making, if I'm able to actually find something that means something to me or just sounds different, I think I am growing and, I am changing as a person. Mostly, I don't think that my songs are ever about anything in particular. I mean, obviously, I try to have some sort of centralized theming, so it's not absolute nonsense. Though it's usually absolute nonsense, let's be honest. But I was really just talking to my mom last night about, a lot of the hardships I was dealing with in Coos Bay. A lot of my depression, a lot of my isolation. And I figured, it was something that I could talk about. Something that could, I could speak from experience. I think a lot of the songs that I wrote in Coos Bay were just... I know a few of them had a lot of some external forces where I was really just sort of venting some of my anger and some my other emotions. But I know that a lot of the feelings that I had back then were really dealing with just I guess, heartbreak. Just having a lot of people in my life who have been there for me, that have been my support system, just feel like they weren't there anymore. Because, like, my parents were going through, like, a really tough time in their life, and so, like, they didn't really reach out as much. I never really saw much of my family in Coos Bay, just because, like, the distance. I didn't really have anyone to help me during, like, I would always see everyone when I was in college. I would always see, like, all these, like, people, like, families. They would, like, come help them, like, pack for the dorms, or they would, like, be there at the graduation and stuff like that. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to, like, have anyone there for my college experience. And I'm like, oh wow, boo-hoo, like, you're lucky you're an orphan or whatever. But it's like, it's true. It's like my parents, like, watched the live stream of my graduation, which I was really happy for. But there was just, there really wasn't any sort of, I guess, physical support when I was living in Coos Bay. And I don't blame my family for that. I don't resent anybody for it. But at the same time, it was a really emotional blow for me, just because I've always had people in my life. I've always had my extended family who's lived really close to me, like, geographical wise. Because even if, like, my parents weren't there, like, my aunts and my great aunts and uncles, like, they would always, like, call me and congratulate me. And I've always had these, like, really strong family bonds. And I think, like, as I went on in, like, Coos Bay, I just lost more and more connections. All of, like, my college friends, they had moved to, like, different places for their externships. And so I was just really alone. Pretty much the only people I would socialize with were the people at my work and just my roommates. And I think, like, over time, a lot of my relationships in that town grew just so toxic, just because of my work environment and because of, like, just a lot of the stress that we were dealing with at home. And I just started becoming more and more of a, I guess, like, isolated person. I just stopped talking to people. I really shut down emotionally just because I didn't have any way to really express myself with anyone. It was always just to keep mute and let other people's problems wash over, because I wasn't really, I guess, given the space to breathe. I don't really know how to describe it. I think, like, another big issue for me was that, like, definitely towards the end of my second year when I was working at my externship, I mostly just was in this very tight bubble because of my work schedule, and really the only emotional support I had was, like, my best friend, who was also my roommate. And, like, after he left, like, I just had nobody to talk to. I didn't have anybody socially to talk to. I had nobody to vent my emotions to, or to, like, just understand. And I was just left so isolated. And I mentioned December in my song. I think that was probably the first thing. And that was probably, I know I talked about this, like, during my live stream, but it's just, I was just, like, thinking about, like, just a lot of the emotional issues I was dealing with in Coos Bay. And the isolationism was the biggest thing, because literally I lost my car keys literally the second week of December, and I was left alone in my apartment by myself for, like, an entire month. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't see anybody. Like, I didn't celebrate Christmas. Literally the only thing I did for Christmas, because I didn't really have that much money, was I ate out one time, and it kind of sucked. Also, like, I wasn't, like, I drank a lot during the time because I was the one that drank out of, like, both of my roommates. I was the one that bought alcohol regularly, and that was sort of, like, how I like to spend my money. And so it was definitely most of the way, like, how I self-medicated, which kids don't do that. And I also remember that during that time period, I was smoking weed at that point, but I wasn't really comfortable with, like, loading up, like, these giant bongs and stuff, just because, like, it wasn't mine. It wasn't even, like, my weed, even though my, like, roommate was like, hey, dude, like, I don't care if you smoke it, which, like, Donna was always chill like that. But, like, we did have some edibles, and so I did eat quite a few of those. I remember they were actually quite hard. Like, there was these, like, little butter cookies, and they were, like, rock cookies, and the dosage was also really inconsistent. I remember one time I had, like, one, and I was just, like, blazed off my ass, but then I ate, like, four the other, like, the next night, and it literally didn't do jack shit, and I'm just like, am I... And you know, like, you know, when you're, I'm sure, like, if you don't, but, like, this definitely moments when, like, people are smoking, they're just like, am I high? And then, like, you get blasted and, like, you'll know. And it's, like, the funniest thing. And, I'm getting off track. I guess I just kind of, like, you know, walk down memory lane with that. But, like, thanks, guys, for listening. I guess this was, like, you know, definitely a bit more of an emotional episode, and I'm just, like, sorry for being modeling, like, what the fuck am I, Hawkeye from MASH, but just, I don't know, like, I was thinking about, like, you know, all those, like, you know, like, tough, like, sad boy emotions, and it made me, like, just, like, kind of want to express that, because I never really, like, really verbalized just how alone I felt, and that was really just one of the big things that, like, you know, was just so big in my life. I actually remember, if you remember my emo high school, like, poem readings that I did, I had, like, the song "I'm Lonely," and it's like, yeah, I felt like isolation back then a bit, but that was more like I just didn't really fit in socially. This, I was, like, pretty physically isolated from people, and it sucked. I'm an extrovert person, so I think that, like, you know, coming back to Medford was a really great emotional step for me. I have a support system now. I have, like, you know, I have a lot stronger friendships now than I actually did, like, in Coos Bay. I managed to, like, you know, reconnect with, like, some of my college friends. I still managed to maintain a few relationships from Coos Bay. And, like, you know, I started talking, like, you know, my best friend again, and we'll, like, send each other's memes, and it's like, and that was and me even, like, you know, actually talking to him was just been a really good emotional support for me. Mostly just because, like, in those first couple of months when I was in Coos Bay, like, I had lost all my contacts, and I was just devastated, because I didn't really have any other way to, like, reach a few of my friends. I think, like, you know, another big thing was just, like, you know, it's just, I have a lot less stress now that I'm here. Like, you know, I'm not having issues with depression anymore. I'm not having issues with, like, you know, any of, like, the other things I was going through. And I'm just glad that I have a family that loves and supports me, that I have a place to hang my head. Like, I have that security. And that really just allows me to really live my best life. Like, I had to let go of so much when I was leaving Coos Bay, like, emotionally and, like, physically and, like, all these other things. And so I think it's really nice that I have this fresh start, but, like, on old ground. Still trying to, like, you know, just become my best life, like, you know, absolutely succeed. And it's a work in progress. This first year is definitely going to be a transitory period, but it's, like, it's 100 times better than, like, you know, what my life was in Coos Bay at that time. And I think I didn't mind the city. Like, if I was financially secure, if I was living in a good situation in Coos Bay, I didn't mind the city so much. Yeah, it could be dull at times, but there were definitely a beauty about it. Like, the actual cityscaping was actually quite nice. Like, you know, there was these parks and there was just these architecture that I felt home in. Not like I feel home here, but it had a, like, you know, it had, like, a nice beauty to it. But I've always, like, even looking back, like, you know, I feel like this is the place where I belong. And maybe in the future, I'll want to travel. I'll want to live someplace else just to have the experience, but I feel like I'm home, and that makes me really happy. Anyway, guys, this video is not supposed to be this long. I try to have these things be like 15 minutes, but this has been like almost half an hour, so Ryan, get your shit together, but yeah. I'm still waiting to hear back from my boss. Hopefully, like, you know, we'll find out when I can start going back to work. Not that, like, you know, I'm having any difficulty, like, you know, making more daily vlogs. I have an entire list of daily vlog ideas written out in case, like, you know, I'm stumped. But we'll figure it out. We'll do something, and yeah. Anyway, guys, I have some shit to do today. I have some stuff to mail, I have some emails to write, and so I gotta get out of here. You need to do something with your life besides watching some random dude from Medford, Oregon be sad and modeling while playing the ukulele. Okay? Like, what you doing with your life? But, like, also thanks for watching, because I do appreciate it. So this is gonna be False Bulls 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna be signing off.